So fucking what was I saying? All right, what would you do if you got fucking snatched up by a criminal, right? And he took you to his foul basement, and he had like a bunch of like implementations, and you're like tied to a chair and shit. And he looks to you, and he has like a pig mask or something. I don't know, just some classic shit. And he says, "Listen, boy, I'm gonna first deglove your arms, and then I'm gonna deglove your legs and feet,
Is it
and
a
then
pig mask?
huh?
Okay, you go on. You go on.
What? What's that again?
Is it a pig mask, like a reference, or is it just a pig head?
The pig,
Like as a
the
mask?
pig. Well, there is like the pig mask is a reference in my mind because I remember a movie
Yeah,
where a guy did something similarly torturous, but it
that's
wasn't
like
degloving.
several. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll tell you the reference after the
Never.
hypothetical.
I can never remember degloving, but it's at least a reference, right?
It was yeah. There was no degloving, but the pig mask. Listen, I'll get to it. So he's like, I'm gonna deglove your arms, and then I'm gonna deglove your fucking legs and feet, and then I'm just gonna let you go.
Is this in Oregon?
This is no. What do you mean?
Like, where am I?
You're tied up in a basement. As I said previously.
Is it
It's not too.
warm? Like, is it like
Huh?
Nevada warm, or is it like anywhere else in the U.S. warm?
It's Oregon warm.
Okay, so it's not burning my soul. Okay,
It's not running your soul.
so it could be anywhere else but Nevada. Got it. Literally anywhere else in the U.S. besides the West Coast, specifically Nevada.
Bro, he's gonna
Got it.
deglove your arms and legs.
Okay, but I'm gonna be able to walk. I'm gonna be able to walk in my
Be able
nubs,
to walk.
and
I
it's
would-
not gonna be and it's not gonna be a million degrees hot like Nevada.
Bro, you're not even gonna be able to crawl. You'll get dirt in your fucking flesh just by existing.
Yes, but in Nevada it would be so hot I couldn't do it at all.
Just, it's like, well, you're gonna deglove my arms and legs, but at least it's not 98 outside.
98 my ass, 110. It's a different. It's a
At
difference
least
of like
I brought my
100
umbrella.
degrees. It's a difference of like 20 fucking degrees. Okay.
He's like, now he's upset at you. He's like, it's like, why you?
Listen, it could be worse.
He's like, okay, well, I'll deglove your ass cheeks as well, just for good measure.
That probably wouldn't hurt more than any other of my skin being exposed to the elements. But sure, go for it.
No, not really, but it'd be really embarrassing to tell your doctor.
I guess it would be, but I'm not gonna feel it more than the other part of my skin is being completely fucking removed like a banana peel.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna be focused on, oh no, my ass. Sure, he can love that. Go for it. Fuck it, you know?
Well, we'll start with the ass then. just so you can focus on it.
Sure, whatever you want to be love, I don't care.
Then we'll go to the arms and legs, and then to the feet, and then you're like, oh.
Wait, would he would he or she say take off my?
Now the question is, how quickly would you shit your pants? Yes.
Like, I would shit my pants 100% out of 100% times, unless they touched me and perhaps hugged me, and then I would like just be fine with it. I would let them do anything they want to me.
Okay.
If they gave me positive physical affirmation, they could really peel all of the skin off me one by one, and I would say, "Can you save me?" No. And I would ask them for help afterwards.
I can't even remember where the hypothetical was going. You just get a degloved ass and arms and legs and feet, but not hands.
Ask for more?
Yeah. Yes, for more.
Get it?
Yes,
you
for
get
more.
it.
He's like, sorry, man. I got I don't know. I got more people to do this one.
Yeah,
There's a
you get it.
line.
There's like a group of people, you know, an
Tied
entire
up
like
in the background.
water.
Yes.
I hope you die.
I hope you fry.
Take it back.
So let me tell you what the pig thing was from.
Okay.
I don't actually know. But I just remember I saw one scene. It was probably while I was like watching TV, right? It was, like channel scrolling like years ago. Just came across this scene where this guy in a pig mask, right? And like an apron, maybe I think.
Yeah.
He like has this boy tied to a chair. Like I don't know,
Yes.
teenager maybe. Maybe
Yes.
early 20s, and he's like he slices the back of the guy's feet, like he slices his heel, you know, not to the where the foot comes off, but to where the foot's still attached. He just like cuts the heel like deep, you know, like not the heel. The heel's like the bottom of the foot, like the area, the tendon, you know. Like right
I get
above
that.
the
The
heel.
Achilles tendon, yeah.
Yeah, the Achilles, the Achilles tendon. He slices the Achilles tendon for both of the guy's feet. The guy's like panicking, screaming. He's like, "Oh fuck, it hurts!" And then the pig guy, he opens the door and unties the guy, and he's like, "Well, you're free to go." And he said it just as comically as that. and the boy was like, "Oh, word." He stands up and he tries to leave, and immediately his feet slip on its own muscle, and he falls to the ground in a terrifying mess. It was disgusting and awesome.
And then
I don't remember what happens next. I think I kept scrolling from there.
that's where I would come.
The
Like,
movie hit the ground.
Well, by then I've been like looking at the first and second image for like 45 to 2 minutes. Like I've been flicking back and forth, and I've been like double clicking to zoom in and view every detail.
So we're here to talk
So like,
about tabletop role-playing games. I'm keeping all that in, by the way. Just terrible shit. I'm gonna put like a time stamp. Skip to here if you don't want to hear. If you don't want to ruin your lunch. Okay.
I would just like skip to there by default and then put the extra as like Patreon shit, you know?
Patreon? We don't have a Patreon. No one's gonna pay.
We don't need to have.
No one
we
would
don't
pay
need
to
to
hear
have-
the core content. None are gonna pay to hear us talk about degloving.
No. Listen. We cut out all the horrifically offensive shit, like everything we just said. And then one day, when people do give a shit, they will pay for it. They'll be like, "Oh my god, what were these guys like in their early days when they were like designing it?"
The fuck are you
And the
talking
answer
about?
is horrific.
That's never. No one's gonna say. I wonder what it would be like to hear Joseph and Water talk about degloving.
Yeah, but
No
the thing
one's
is,
that's such a long-term goal that it's not even worth gambling on.
what I mean is, they'll never say that.
What are we gonna
they'll
do?
never
Keep
say-
the footage? Keep the audio for until then? I'm just gonna have
Yes,
it locked away in a sacred vault.
yes, because we talk about
No.
degloving like 4 times a day. So yes.
All right,
just
so
it-
shut up.
it
We're
just
talking
went-
about Gail, hit this fool.
Stop.
Ah!
Fucking got him. All right, we're here to talk about tabletop role-playing games. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Which one? I know we wanted to talk with Lance about Triple D,
Ha, says you.
and we didn't finish reviewing our old version of the podcast,
Okay.
and so we could talk about it because I know we still have a lot of fresh opinions. But I know you also wanted to talk about my system. It's the soon to be the greatest, the superior system of all systems. So I'll let you take your pick.
Why not? Why not do both?
Well, we have to start somewhere.
Okay, so do you want to finish Triple D and then move on to your system?
I suppose so. It's good jump off point.
My cat is currently, as we speak, slipping out of the fucking harness.
All right. When I put the timestamp, it's gonna skip to directly when you said that. That's what it's gonna
I'm putting him in the submission hold and then putting him back in the harness.
People are gonna question what the context of that is, and there it is. That was the context. He's putting the cat in the chokehold.
I don't. No. They can have the context or they can not have the context because the fact is, I put my cat in the chokehold and then I suplex my cat. That's real.
That's real.
Full force. Then I do whatever I need to do to my cat. But before that happens, I suplex his ass.
Exactly.
360 degrees.
So, Triple
And if you don't do that, you're a bad cat owner.
So, Triple D. Since our last recording, motherfucker, I just added Lance, and he disconnected from Discord, son of a bitch.
Anything new? No.
Triple D. Triple D has evolved quite a bit. To start off with the obvious, we were wrong about the name. It is not Dungeons, Dice, and DiGiorno. It is Dueling. Dungeons, Dice, and Dueling.
I think it might be DiGiorno. Double check that.
We can ask him again if he hops in, but...
Ask someone above him.
Ask someone above him.
Yeah, go above his head. I think he's lying.
So, Dungeons, Dice, and DiGiorno. It is currently on... I think Lance will be calling this the more or less definitive alpha or beta of the system. So it's
better be alpha.
I don't know if it'd be too accurate to say alpha because it's changed a lot since its original iteration.
No, it would be.
But it why what makes you say that?
I can be the 3.0 alpha. It's still an alpha.
I guess so. But why not beta? What's wrong with beta? What does that imply?
Because beta implies that it's not a fucking alpha. Beta implies
but beta does still imply that it's not done yet.
Yeah, but beta implies that it's like done yet to the point where when I touch it, I won't get like the common cold or maybe the flu on that year.
Who the fuck? Oh, that's Leanne.
Leanne.
Welcome to the podcast.
Is it DiGiorno?
Leanne, tell water. Leanne, tell water yes.
Yes. Water.
No,
yes.
See water.
Does
Water do
DiGiorno
it.
theme song? Hold on, what was that song?
Is it DiGiorno? Yeah.
Is that from an ad, or did you just make that up? Like it's such a simple tune that I can't tell.
You asked it in the chat, and I made it a song.
Is it DiGiorno?
It sounds nightmarish.
Joseph was wrong.
Lance, my nigga.
Okay, cut that out. Cut that out.
No, that stays in the podcast.
You wouldn't get it. This is not for your kind of people, Leanne.
Oh.
This podcast. This is for gamers.
This podcast goes far beyond that, Leanne.
Aw.
This podcast is beyond your social construct.
You being my N-word is part of it. Believe me.
Thanks.
Now
Gail, you were saying
Yeah.
something? Wait,
Okay.
let me ask your girlfriend a question. God.
Women.
What's up?
Were you saying something? I thought I heard you call my name.
Yeah, I was saying you can say it, Leanne, since you're part of the group.
Oh.
Are you happy,
No
Lane? Are
thanks.
you happy they asked Gail?
Oh God. You know what? Maybe I should have said anything.
You stopped me for that. You stopped me for that. So now we have to know. Are you gonna say the fucking N-word or not?
I didn't
Leanne-
say she had to. I
Leanne-
just said she would.
Leanne, I'll spoil it. I'm gonna ask you to say it too. Say it.
All right, guys, have a good podcast.
I'll be all that in. She's gonna get fucking doxxed. She lives.
Hey, Water.
Yes. Yes.
I dare you to fucking edit Leanne to saying the N-word.
I'm gonna like censor the last
That'd
second.
Yeah. Let's get her saying the hard ER, and that's it. Just censor her ass.
Yeah. Did she say anything that
And
has an E? I'm sure she has. We'll figure it out.
And if we can get an NI out of her, that's even better. How can we get an NI out of her? NI. Ow.
We'll figure it out.
Get her to say nice?
Nice. I don't know.
Nice.
Maybe at least an N. She's at least slipping in an N in there. We'll figure it out in post. You hear that, listening audience? We're gonna make our friends look like racists for fun. Because this
It'll
is
be awesome.
post-liberalism. You guys just don't get it.
I'm petting my cat at 400 psi.
400 psi.
Yeah. If he survives, he's my cat. If he doesn't, well, he wasn't.
Did you? This is neither here nor there. I'm gonna cut this out, but I just want you to answer real quick. If you saw that Snapcube made Shadow the Hedgehog live dub,
That's awesome. Googling
Yeah.
it right now.
Gail,
Don't even
Gail
cut that
watched
out.
it
Just leave it
today.
in.
I'm not gonna spoil anything, but
Just leave that. Just leave that in. That's awesome. That's base. Why not?
because nobody cares.
The absolute worst that happens is because of licensing, we have to cut out 5 seconds of audio. Oh no! And YouTube will do it automatically for us, actually. So there we go. Fuck it, leave it in.
It wasn't even. It's not even a licensing thing. It's just highly irrelevant.
My ass is irrelevant. I'm googling Snapcube right now.
Live dub of the Shadow the Hedgehog game. That's relevant
How
to
is that
Triple D.
irrelevant?
How does that contribute?
How is that
You tell me.
irrelevant?
You tell me how that relates
It's
to
an hour
Triple D.
long. That's relevant to anything.
You tell me how that relates to Triple D.
Okay, look. I'll show you. I'm grabbing my cat. I'm hooking him under both of his forearms,
Okay,
and I'm gonna
okay.
suplex him, and that's how it's relevant.
Oh.
Do you have any words for him?
Tell your cat I said that if you have degloved arms and legs, that it's very easy to scratch and pull out the veins.
Cat, if you're degloved, you could kill me, but you're not. Ah!
I don't know if the
He
cat's
may have not survived.
whatever. So,
He may have died.
doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter to Triple D, unless of course you use Triple D mechanics to kill your cat.
I might have.
You wouldn't have. That's out of character. Shut up.
No, you're right, because then Lance will correct me on how I did it wrong.
For the listening audience at home, there's been a lot of changes, and some more contentious than others.
He would correct me post doing it, how the rules were wrong, post him changing it right now.
So, it's technically on 2.5 edition, honorary 3rd edition of Triple D. So, but he's since scrapped trying to keep track of what version number it is, because he's stopped keeping track of that. So it is what it is. but there have been a lot of changes. Looking at we took some notes from the last time we discussed this and gosh, the sheer contrast of things that just did not happen and that did happen. It's pretty wacky. Where's the list, Joseph? Where's
I am on my phone. You figure out.
I found it. Okay. So, first things first, HP is now referred to as scoops. Damn shame.
Damn shame my ass. That's the best thing anyone's ever done.
It's not been referred to as scoops.
Wait, I'm gonna kill myself. Instantly, right now.
If I don't know, unless I look at the document again, and for some reason at the last minute he said, yeah, scoops of HP.
Should I kill myself? Right now?
The thing is, I told him about the scoops thing, right? We both did.
It makes sense though, because listen, at worst we have to have nerds learn what scoops are, which they have to read the book anyways. At best, we have non-nerds learn what scoops are because they get nutritional info because they're non-nerds. So we get to include more audience, right?
Exactly. We could say just how many
non-nerds will learn. Non-nerds will learn whatever the fuck word we use. Or non-nerds won't learn. Regular nerds will learn. So scoops are perfect. Scoops are perfect. I would die on that hill.
The next note is, do brains absorb liquid? If I pour a shot of Du Bois on an exposed brain, would that shit absorb or like kill the brain? Quoteth Joseph.
You could literally ask this on Reddit and find it out.
I don't want to know. I like the question more than I like any potential answer.
We need not even a brain doctor. We just need a single doctor to answer this.
We need a single doctor. I don't know. Have they experimented with this? I'm sure they know. I think anyone's experimented with it, but I know
lobotomies have been performed since like the 1800s.
I guess so.
I am certain they poured a liquid on the brain by now.
All right.
I was just wait. Did I tell you about that? If the brain's cut in half, like left brain from right brain, that's a medical procedure that's apparently sometimes still performed. But your right brain, which controls the left half of your body and like recognizing faces and shit, can disagree with your left brain if you split them in half. In the same human being, like if I cut my brain in half for whatever medical procedure I was reading about, because I'm a little drunk right now, my left brain and my right brain would disagree, and my left brain with my mouth, because my left brain controls speech, would give you a reason why my right side of my body is doing whatever action, because your left brain justifies actions. So your left brain would justify what the right brain is doing, even though it doesn't know what it's doing. And this happens in people who have this medical procedure done.
How many times has this procedure been done?
I don't fucking know, but it's happened. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, what wacky scenario, sir? We have to slice our brain right down the middle.
No. It's for a specific medical condition, but I forget it at the moment.
Shit,
it's a CGP. It's a CGP. Okay. So,
do you have anything you want to say, or are we moving back to Triple D?
I forgot what I was saying because I was being so funny.
Perfect. Triple D.
Triple D.
Triple D's nuts. Fucking got him.
Lance has radiation.
Lance, you fucking cock. Got him. I hope Lance listens.
We also hoped he listened 1 year ago.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. All right, newsflash to anyone listening to this podcast.
Lance hates us. We proved it.
Years down the line, 5 or more at least, when Triple D takes
What?
off.
Wait. If he doesn't listen a second time, that'd be base as hell for us.
Just so you
That'd
know,
be funny as hell.
we're I don't know what you would call us. Dedicated friends. Like, this isn't a project we started. We're recording a podcast about someone else's project that has yet to become public. It's
Okay, to be transparent, a year ago we were heavily invested, and then we very quickly became a little less invested due to like things and life. So that's why we recorded it originally, because there was plans of heavy investment and that changed. And we're recording it now, mostly because we have the recording a year ago, so we have like things to compare it to. Which our opinion on some things as of the last recording hasn't changed, so that's really cool. At least I feel it's really cool that we can be consistent in things.
yeah.
So far, we've been very consistent, including having the same conversations that we have, and then playing the recording, and then realizing we had the conversation already, but a year ago. So we've been very consistent in what we want and what we believe, and that's something, right?
At the very
We have
least,
we have beliefs about what we're talking about, and we have proof of that.
we're very passionate about the craft of storytelling,
And also I have Sea of Thieves proof, and now this proof that we have the same conversations all the fucking time, and it's really weird.
yeah, that's
We
like
do that very fucking often, and it's very weird. And
That's-
apparently I'm the only fucking one who remembers, and that kind of freaks me out.
it's not the first time I've heard of this phenomenon. YouTubers, especially like YouTubers with co-hosts, have this all the time. Where they'll look
I
back-
know, but the fact that like we like when we didn't have recording of it, it was more funny. Even when like I proved it that one time on Sea of Thieves, it was still funny. But now that we have recording of it, it's kind of weird, you know? And it's like, how fucking often have we actually just had conversations and neither of us have said anything?
If anyone listening to this right now is an employer of some kind, just so you know, we have a lot of excess energy, and so we're doing this stupid shit. So if you have extra money,
If you have extra money and you have anything that is worthwhile, anything game related, we will do it. We'll do it.
we'll do it.
If it's not a regular job and it pays more than $14 an hour, catch us.
Catch us. Well, hold on. More than 16 for me.
Okay, he's rich.
I'm not
Sure.
broke. I'm not a broke ass like you. I have rent
And
to
also-
pay, motherfucker.
And also we live in different states with different like listen, either way, fuck you. Pay us.
Listen, any job that similar to if you look at us and say these guys have what it takes, it's likely gonna be like a stay-at-home job anyway. What the fuck? What
If we-
office do you need us to come into? We need to call in
If
the
we
experts, bring them on site.
If we mentioned every single problem that was already a problem in your game, maybe hire us. Maybe
Yeah.
if we bring up everything you already thought about, but we bring it into the light, perhaps that's worth investing in.
Yeah. Listen, you won't find this stuff on our resume, but this we have talent. Okay, it's real. We have talent. This is a talent, right? Yeah.
A very specific talent to a very specific audience, but as of 2021 and 2022, the audience is growing.
Maybe we can broaden it to game development. You know? I don't know. I'm in it for the storytelling.
You know, oddly enough, I've thought about that recently. Like, ever since you mentioned that, like the question, do you think you can make an RPG? I completely believe I could. I believe I have the knowledge of how to make a good tabletop, but I don't know when I could get it done because of motivation. And I can't not include a real life stuff because I just moved, because I don't have a job and I don't technically have a home.
Right.
So it's hard to imagine just being able to work on things. But I believe if I just didn't have to do anything. I could make one given an amount of time.
What would you think the focus and theme of your system would be? In a hypothetical world, you get a big funding. It goes exactly as planned.
It would be 5e to Pathfinder, but probably just because of what I do, it wouldn't be quite medieval themed, but it would probably be based in medieval theme just for the rules. Like, the rules would be based around having a bow and shit and not having a firearm. Like, I wouldn't, like, when you think about what an attack action means, attack action with a bow is inherently different from an attack action with a firearm, at least roleplay wise, right?
I assume so, I guess.
I would from a base assume you would be with a bow and like a sword rather than a machine gun, you know. But okay. I wouldn't make it stuck in medieval or shit like that. Like, kind of like Triple D.
Right.
But
so the rules could facilitate guns if they were included.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have 40,000. I wouldn't have a shit ton of rules for guns. Somewhere between Triple D and 5e with guns, because like, okay, mentioning 5e with guns doesn't work because there's like 3 different. There's 3 different 5th editions of the gun. There's the Gunslinger with Matt Mercer. There's the guns with 5th edition as a base game. Then there's the guns with 5th edition as a not base game that are intended to be used more like a normal melee or more like a normal range weapon. Because in base game 5e and the Dungeons Master Guide, the guns are actually overpowered because they're supposed to be guns, but in medieval times.
Right.
Really fucking stupid talking about guns in 5th edition.
Yeah, the base.
In 5th edition specifically, it's just like magic weapons. They really wanted to put them in the base game in every way possible, but they didn't technically want to because that would technically be anything another new player had to look at, so they just made them optional despite making them heavily invested in and available to be had.
I don't know about that. I think it was kind of an afterthought, right? Because like the system doesn't seem to really work with guns, you know. Because
the way the developers saw it, they were just range weapons were better.
Range weapons are better. I guess that is true, isn't it?
Objectively, it's true.
Objectively.
But that's not how you make a D&D game. A tabletop's more debatable. That's not how you make Dungeons and Dragons, though. Like a balanced adventure game. You don't make it by having a way of interacting with enemies being better than any other way.
Suppose so. I don't know, just like
there are other ways it could work, but not in like a game such as where the intention is everyone's interacting with things about equally.
I don't know because if you do treat them like a magic weapon where it's something you're supposed to get along the way, if you think about it in that perspective.
They didn't quite treat it as a magic weapon though. They treated it as a rare weapon type, but while being a rare weapon type, it was still a normal weapon. So while it was technically rare and technically it had like a D12 base damage for some of them, despite being a range weapon and despite still adding dex to damage as a base roll because it's 5e, right. That was just kind of there because guns are strong, and then they didn't do much beyond that because they didn't care because it was 5e. And then there was some later stuff that like made sort of balanced guns, but none of it was actually made by at best it was something that was slightly endorsed by Matt Mercer, but it wasn't quite done because his gunslinger originally wasn't quite done and people did work off of it. But a lot of it was based on Gunslinger, but people with Gunslinger tried to make Gunslinger complex, like they were playing Pathfinder and they could do things with weapon traits and shit. But it was 5e, and it's 5e, and the most you could do is spend your round doing attacks or doing another action that is an attack. Most of what guns amounted to was like having failure conditions or having like multiple things to manage.
Right. I remember when I remember in the Dragon Riders game. Now, don't worry, listening audience, if you're like Dragon Riders game, huh? Is this something I should know? You don't worry about the context. It's just an example.
Anything we talk about is probably some game we played of some system. That's some example. Just don't worry about it beyond that.
In any case, we were playing 5e, and it was typical medieval setting, you know, the whole thing. And when he included guns, the only difference between
No, I can explain this part better. At first, guns were a little more special because at first guns were as they were in 5e. They were like overpowered, but they were rare. But then we played Claddenrow, so guns changed. Seth looked over the rules again and changed them. They were still generally stronger than any ranged weapon, and they were also melee guns that like were melee weapons that had guns in them that were still comparable damage to the same level melee weapons for one-handed or two-handed.
It's like steampunk guns for context.
Yeah, but they still had like a ranged weapon on top of them while still being the same damage dice, unlike Pathfinder where it's, balanced. Seth just didn't do that part, which technically made sense for Claddenrow, but he like everything mixes in the world, especially during the.
Would you, if you were making your own system, would you make guns inherently more powerful, or do you think you'd balance them?
A lot of the problem is, especially because I played it so often, Pathfinder does so many fucking things right that I just want to copy it at most turns. Like, I really love the 3-action system. I find it beautiful. It allows you... It's below a step of like your system of having multiple movement options or multiple ways to increase or decrease your movement.
Right.
But you still have a set movement. You just have to spend actions on it. So you can have a slightly more dynamic chase in it, like we have before with that one girl in that one shot with the cactus boy and everything. Remember?
Yeah.
Like multiple times, I brought up that by the rules I could chase her. But we didn't like have a more complicated movement system than we needed to, besides having a set movement speed and actions to spend on it. Where the fuck was I going with this in the beginning?
I asked if you would make guns more powerful, and it became about.
Yes.
Also, hey Lance, hold on, we have a special guest, Lance.
Oh, hey Lance.
The original creator of the Triple D listening audience. Lance, don't say anything racy, I swear to God.
Yeah, Lance, kill yourself.
Son of a bitch.
Pathfinder.
I'm gonna cut out. Hold on. He said a word that begins with N and ends with R. You're fucked, Lance.
Lance, you're over it. You're completely over it. You don't have a career anymore. Like Triple D is dead. We're gonna take Triple D. You don't have a copywriter yet. Me and Water already have experience copywriting shit. You're fucked, Lance. Triple D's ours.
Oh my god.
Water! We could go to that guy and copyright Triple D.
Oh my god.
Lance, we are already in contact with someone who could copyright something for us for below market price. What would you do if we just copyright Triple D? We could
call it
right now.
Dyson DiGiorno.
We can call it Triple D. Because Lance hasn't done anything yet. Lance, we're in contact with someone who could below market price copyright Triple D for us.
Mm-hmm.
It would be ours.
Would you kill us?
I feel a little betrayed. I won't even lie. That actually happened.
I mean,
betrayed. Why only a little?
A little
Well, I'm really
betrayed.
understating, but
Like, we don't mean the name.
for the lack of saying anything more.
No. Lance, the intellectual property would be ours. The gameplay of Triple D being a mixture of 5e and whatever else you cobble together would be ours intellectually. That'd be fucked.
Very.
I would hope you
I'm
take
not
my
saying
ass.
what I can say about it.
Like, you wouldn't be able to do Triple D. You'd just have to make something entirely different.
Uh-huh.
You wouldn't hurt
So I'm
us?
not saying anymore.
You wouldn't hurt us? You would I'd be mad.
I'll leave that up to your imaginations.
I would take your shotgun and your father's Glock, and I would fix the problem. I'd be pissed.
I will
Because-
let the imaginations take
Because
account here.
again, it's not just the name or the idea,
Be aware
or,
that's
or even the
how
game
what
mechanics.
this project is, and also it's fun. So
Not even just the game mechanics. though. It's the idea. That's how fucked it is.
very.
It's American.
I don't know what you guys are stressing here. That's exactly. I'm responding to this.
Lance.
You know, water. Let's do it.
No, hold on. Because I would hope,
I'm-
Lance, I would hope you'd kick my ass. I'm just saying.
I am leaving it to your imaginations.
I'm imagining entrails.
Or
I'll
Lance.
say this is a project near and dear to my heart. And if some
Okay. So I got it. Lance having
So-
Triple D, as he said multiple times, is his baby. It's something very near to his heart that he's shown to all of his friend groups, as far as I'm concerned. Lance will become our first employee, Water. Let's do it.
so are we discussing Triple E copyright or what's up?
No.
Well, tomorrow at like 9 a.m. That insert the place me and Water go to, maybe, but not now.
Oh my god.
All right. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. So Lance, let me catch you up.
What's up?
Water,
We're-
cut that entire part and everything near it, so no one gets an idea. So the singular person who ever listens to this will never get an idea because anyone could do this. Cut that entire part, okay? We're clear? The entire thing?
The whole thing. But what about introducing Lance?
Literally anyone could do this to us. That's how easy American copyright is.
but
Anyone
we're
could
not-
do this to
we're
us.
We're not publishing the document. There's so much missing.
I know, but they can still copyright the idea, and then we would have to consult them for every fucking thing we do that relates to the idea.
They can copyright Dungeons and Dice and DiGiorno, sure.
It's such a Dyson DiGiorno.
No,
Oh god, sorry.
no, they can attempt to copyright the gameplay surrounding it.
Here's what I'll do.
Just
I'll
cut
take
it.
I'll
Just
take
cut it.
no. Here, I got something better. I'll take all the audio, right, and I'll overlap it. I'll cut it into chunks and I'll overlap it so it sounds like a mess of us just talking over ourselves, and it'll be an echo chamber
Question.
of hate.
Oh god.
You'll make it one audio file though, so they can't take it apart, right?
Of course. I mean,
Good.
it would have to be because I'd be turning it into a video, and then it would
I've
compress.
I've actually done that to someone. I've taken apart an audio file in their ass. I was finding this song for like a girl who like didn't know shit about the internet. To be fair, I didn't either, but I knew how to HTML, and I knew like someone was layering things on top of each other, so I figured I could unlayer them. I don't remember how to do it, but it was easy enough where I don't have to remember how to do it. You know what I mean?
Right. Hold
Yeah.
on. I'm gonna go grab my groceries. Joseph, introduce Lance or vice versa. I don't know. Just say something cool, okay, that we can transition to.
Alright, cool. Alright. The transition is happening now. Alright, so Lance is the guy that we're like kind of talking about, mostly loosely. He made Triple D, like the system. It's a game we play that's loosely based on kind of a few systems. I would say 5e is a lot of the inspiration, and we've taken some inspiration from Pathfinder 2nd Edition, mainly the triple action system, which we'll explain more about. But we basically, I would say, what's been done there is it's the simplicity and like easy. It's the attempt to be ease into jumping into of like 5e, 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. But a few of the changes that made Pathfinder a better game overall, or a more enjoyable game. Not even for heavy tabletop players, but just for general tabletop players, really. They did a lot of good minor changes. And that's what Lance did. And that's the transition. It's done. Alright, Lance, you can kill yourself now.
Wow.
No, it's cool. Grab the knife. You're done.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, that first covers it. I'll say. Yeah, Triple. I guess we're just doing short introductions about things. Yeah, so Triple D is just like a sort of framework system I've been working on for the past, I want to say, 2-3 years now. Where I'm not sure how in-depth this is going to be. By the way, I'm just kind of going. Let's keep going. Yeah, so Triple D is some past about 3 years now, which started off as like a 5e trainer system in a way, just to ease brand new tabletop players into the game 5th edition. Over time, that has changed from what used to be a smattering of random mechanics to actual like sort of like a butchering of random mechanics to pretty much a more organized system, so to speak.
Yeah, so after Triple D became like a trainer system, it even originally had a different version of it, which was Triple D Lite, to put it simply. It was like a simpler version of it. Now it's its own thing with its own skill or perk system. Perks, feats, whatever you want to call them, based on every system, you know. You level up and you select them to change the way your character plays or the options they have available. So now it's become something slightly more than that.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, early iterations were relatively open and more broad, where people would be able to upgrade their characters, or not just upgrade. They would put in points into skills, and as those skills leveled up, they would achieve milestones and basically make those skills better and stuff like that. And you see, relatively primitive.
It's much the same now, but I believe it's been replaced with you level up skills and you choose perks, right?
Yes.
Perks,
it's a bit more of an involved feat system now, where the skill sort of building is still there, but if you still want a raw sort of evolution, it's still there. But it allows, as you level up now, you can use your points to purchase further feats and that specialize those abilities even more, as well as add a bit more mechanical involvement into your character. That's a general basis of like the way the character building works. And yeah, that's really about it for that.
In essence, it's the middle between it's trying to scratch the middle between having a robust, complicated system where you can do what you want while still being by the rules, but as well being loose enough where you can quickly gather it in like just an evening, not even an afternoon, and quickly play it with your friends, you know? It's a very interesting system, and that's why we're talking about it. Now that we're done doing that, is water there you go, Water.
So gamers, so Lance,
Yes, sir.
you've been working on Triple D for how many years now? You'd say.
About
We already
3.
did that, you asshole. 3. Fuck you. Kill yourself.
Almost 19-ish. Possibly like 3 after he's done.
No, no,
What
Lance,
is
tell him to kill
Triple
himself.
D?
We kind of already went over that, but I can.
Lance, it's okay. Lance, it's okay. Tell him to kill himself.
I can turn it down a little bit more.
Lance, call me F slur, call me N slur, and then call me S slur. If you had to ask what the S slur is, ask me.
I'm good.
So, Lance,
Yes.
there's been a lot of changes to Triple D since its initial iteration.
Yep.
I remember in our previous podcast that the system would be moving to 3d6s instead of d20s.
Yes.
And between podcasts, that did happen briefly.
It did.
And now it is back to the d20.
Yes.
All right, this is one of the bigger changes. Looking at my notes here from
Yes.
and I want to know, why you did the 3d6 dirty.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, then, now that my bit's over, Lance. Originally, we were Okay, well, not quite originally. We were under the impression, based on what you said, that you changed the 3d6 because it was difficult to understand.
Question mark?
Yeah. So partially the reason, part of the reason why I did move back into D20 systems, that was a system that I was actually a bit more familiar with, regarding number-wise. I know it's all math, and I did understand the whole chance-based thing, and this was purely. I don't really have any objective reason for switching back 3d6 other than possibly I know D20 is a little bit more better. I'm a bit more familiar with them.
May I
And
continue my point then? Because it's relevant immediately, maybe?
sure.
If there's no particular opinion on it, and the players don't know the math behind it originally, because beyond it being a d20, most players don't look into it beyond it being a dice. They
So about that as well. Part of what influenced the decision as well was when I brought some test players or some people that I play with, some other friends. I told them to switch, and I was all for 3d6 because I like the whole average system. It made a lot of sense, but this was all very much emotional and such. But when I told them that we won't be using d20s anymore, they got a little disappointed. And granted,
that's completely fair, but explain that thoroughly, because I'm interested in that. How how people explain that. Go on.
I mean, part of the reason is that just mostly they like the d20, they like the look of it just from pure visual standpoint. I agree. I do like d20s a bit more. Number wise, 3d6s are cool. It really makes sense, and it's a little bit more accessible, albeit if I were to speak from a purely marketing or really deep psychological standpoint.
No. I know the math behind it and I love it, but even I find it weirder as a player.
That's part of the reason.
Like a d20 to me feels really simple and easy, and 3d6 is a little more than that. And also, I've done it in person. My introduction to 3d6 was playing with Seth and playing some random system in high school, and I just didn't have 3d6. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
3d6 to me is a little weirder than that, so I get that part.
Yeah, that was part of the reason why too. Because I was like, they felt a little dejected. It felt a little bit separate, and this was after about maybe a game with one of the groups I know, or with one of them, and they were like, they did tell me they kind of miss it, and it was more of an offhand comment. It wasn't an actual feedback moment, but more just well, not necessarily quote unquote feedback. We were all just playing a game, and they I did ask them hey, what do you guys think? I was like, what we always do whenever we do finish off a game, a game. Always say, how did we do? What did we think? Whether it was about the game or whatever. But I digress. And they told me, yeah, no, we kind of miss it. It was cool. And a friend brought up he likes the whole little more randomization system about it. I was a little torn on that part, but I get it. I completely understood it. It makes it a lot more fun. And it does make the math a bit easier because it's just one dice. Part of that reason as well too, it was more a personal decision for me. I felt a little split on 3d6 because it was, with full disclosure, I know it was a decision that you guys all suggested me, but it didn't feel me. It didn't feel like it was something that I sort of enjoyed. And as much as I thought it was a really cool idea, I wanted to move back to something a little bit more familiar, a little bit more something that I knew and that I felt more inclined to. And that's part of the reason why among many different things.
Okay.
So your decision specifically was based more on feel rather than results? Not that that's wrong or anything. I'm just
to,
curious.
to rephrase that. The cultural significance of the D20 outweighed the, I guess, practicality of the 3D6.
Blah blah. Everyone knows what D&D is. Sure, be correct about it. I'll say people are bitches.
Anyway, yes, that's pretty much, yeah, that sounds about.
Right.
Blah blah. They don't know the math behind it anyways, and they just literally only know what a D20 is. So
No, hold on.
objectively,
Wait,
they're wrong.
Wait,
And they can
wait.
be subjectively right when they have an opinion.
Wait. Hold on. I'm gonna counter you there. Because with the math, I remember this one. I took a note of this one. One of them saying that they enjoyed the randomness more. Now, I know our good friend Edwin is also a strong believer of the chaos, of the randomness, which, if you wanted that, you would need a D20 for, rather than a 3D6.
Yeah.
So, it adds to the game feel, quote unquote, right? The game feel of
That is
the
just like a difference of opinion, but I
games.
I as a designer, I don't like to err on the side of not randomness isn't just the word I want to use, but like I don't like to err on I don't like to err on the side of being a little pussy bitch pansy, you know? Like my pussy doesn't need more pussy. I don't need more people to like look at things and shrivel up inherently because they don't know what they're looking at. I need people to look at things and I want them to shrivel up and feel cold and a little scared, even clammy maybe, because they know what they're looking at. So what I mean is I actually had a point, but it was lost in the meme. Fuck.
Oh my god. If I can add, actually.
Go ahead, Lance. Go ahead.
So with the comment from my friend about randomness, I partially disagreed and partially agreed. It does make it more fun. It felt a little bit, in terms of game speak, like a gaming marketer, is game experience, quote unquote. Like for me, part of the reason that I was really, I did err on that, and part of me I didn't really agree with the randomness because I do like more structured, more like getting in on stuff right now, or getting more like assurance, I guess the best way to put it, like. Because 3d6 was a bit more assurance, it just boosted your average, just like that, in terms of math. But with d20, in a way, though, that decision itself didn't really influence me as much as, I don't know, the best way to put it is, I can appreciate it, but I also have some systems in place that allow for people to understand the numbers better and then work their way towards it. The d20 just adds a little bit. I don't like to have a lot, but it's just enough, and is along with the easy enough to understand part.
I have two things
with the right systems in mind.
Okay, I know what I want to say to that. I'll say my first thing. I don't like to err on the fact of people not knowing what they're gonna do. I've played literally. If I had to count it across accounts, it'd be over 1,000 to 3,000 hours. I played way too much fucking like tabletops online and offline. I played a lot of tabletops. People generally don't like it's not succeeding that people don't like. It's just not knowing what's gonna happen when they do something. It's the lack of being able to
the assurance. It's a lack of assurance of your capabilities as a character.
I would say assurance is the wrong word to use of it. It's the lack of being, because assurance is assurance technically means the same thing, but it's like about the connotation of it. People don't like not being able to weigh the costs of things, especially if you give them more ways to interact and to change the cost of things.
The
With fifth
predictability.
edition, it's less pronounced because the combat formula is simpler for both spellcasters and marshals. But it's not even about spellcasters and marshals. It's about fifth edition being simpler with the actions and the economy, the action economy you're given. But the more engaged the game gets, like the more you're able to interact with things and to change the way things are, you would prefer to at least have an idea of how things should end up, and to have them be a fair chance of ending up that way. And I wouldn't call that assurance. I would call that like just having an
sounds like-
understanding of. It sounds like assurance.
At least
but
predictability.
To the people who are playing it and the people who are using it, though, it's just like they want to have an understanding of their existence. You know, like they want to. The people who are actively doing it, not us. To us, it's assurance, but to them, it's like. To some people, it's like if they don't have this information, they don't know how to like react with their character to things. You know.
No, I feel you.
Also, it's cold as fuck. Ignore Oregon for a sec. Holy shit! It is chilly.
Well-
Fuck. Anyways, go on.
I
But it's not. I wouldn't. The reason I don't want to say assurance is because assurance connotates a different thing. But for the people who are playing the game,
what does it
it's not
connotate?
about assurance. It's about connotating competence for themselves. It's about them being able to make a decision and to feel comfortable in the decision. They don't ever want to feel like it's a gamble, even if, like, at best, the best result you can get with advantage or whatever the system gets is 75%. They want to know it's 75%, you know? Like,
So like
they wanna-
predictability.
Yeah, but predictability predictability as viewed from someone who is trying to survive and to trying to assure their own going forwardness.
You said a
So
sure.
it's a little yeah. The thing is,
Not to dwell on the semantics though.
listen, I'm more than aware of the semantics, and I agree with you. But the problem is playing it very differently. Listen, Water, I, above all people, would die at any time for semantics, but unfortunately, this isn't one I can die on.
Anywho, I agree. In any case, semantics aside, I agree with you. People,
The semantics in this case give a different connotation.
when it comes to combat in D&D, right? The fact that it's a D20 probably matters a bit less. I usually think about it in terms of.
Hold on. I wouldn't say combat. I would say heavily including. People spec into roleplay fucking heavily, especially if they don't. If people feel they can't control the world around them, people spec even harder into roleplay.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to lean into. Like people put a lot of points into skills.
I've seen it
And-
less so in Pathfinder, but people spec more so than combat. People will spec their characters scarily into roleplay if they feel they cannot control the roleplay that their character they feel should have. People will get scarily controlling about every single thing the game does if they feel they can't control their character story. That's actually a very fucking good example. People get beyond aggressively. People get control. People get controlling to the point where I view them differently as a fucking person if they can't control what their character does in an RPG.
There is a lot of strong emotions when it comes to what one's character is capable of. I know the
I have had two close friends. I have had two close friends abuse all of their friendships not in game. I mean, in game was obvious, but like they have used their friendships out of game to get results in game. As a result of what's happening in game, people get fucking weird.
Things can get heated.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to social interactions and general intrigues, and we talked about this the other day, Lance.
Oh yeah, I remember.
It always puts a big fucking sourpuss frown on my face when I have like a +9 in persuasion and I roll a 2. When I roll anything below a fucking 10, you know what I mean? And then it's insta fail from there. Granted, you know, at higher levels you get higher modifiers and it gets nuts, but by that point it's gotten wacky as is, and the stakes are already so different. But yeah, at lower levels, when people are starting, they're getting into the roleplay, they're doing all that. Your modifiers are so low, so when you try and use a skill, it's like Christ.
At lower levels, it debatably matters more from like a character or gameplay standpoint. At higher levels, you almost certainly know what you're doing and know exactly what you're trying to manipulate. You know. Like you've had most of the game to figure out what you're trying to do and how you can with the game, so you're trying to do it.
No, plus the best of 5e is at lower levels, so it's like you're playing. I don't know. I just don't like it when I was like, all right, I'm gonna pick this lock, and I roll. It's like, well, I guess I'm a fucking loser.
Imagine being a loser like
shit,
water.
it broke.
I never.
Oh,
never playing that sweet level 15 Pathfinder.
The breaking lockpick thing isn't. That's another thing different that I feel. It's sort of if I could add something to this a bit, that's always been a common thing that I've seen about it, and personally, I get it. I completely understand, because that's something too that I've like. Like there are times where I'm like, the Branders those can hit, though. I would say at that point there is other things involved in the game that is not. What's the best way to put this? There's more underneath the surface, not necessarily with the game, but with just the things around it. I guess is the best way to put it. Like. If people get really weird about it. And granted, though, that doesn't mean the game blameless, because there are certain games that are just not going to do it right, I would say. Like, there's just certain things that, like, it's not going to be possible, or it because of the way it works. And I'm trying to word this in a way with, like, this is something that I've been researching, that I've researched before, because of, like, before, not necessarily for game design, but for DM work. Like what you can do better what people can do is do better, or personally what I can do better as a DM, how to do things, go about things a bit more in a bit more nuanced way, or more in a better way that could satisfy certain things while also highlighting the best parts, while also reducing like those situations from happening. Like you try to convince a dude, you have like a +8%. There is always, I will say that there is always room for error, but there are times where, given it's a game and it's always going to be adjudicated, you're always going to be like, what? It's like, how can I show this off better? And then, I guess it really comes down to like, I'm trying not to say it in the context of Triple B too much, but like something that I've tried to use more often, or and like in like a DMing style, is more like more passive checks in a way. Like, I remember reading something off a Reddit post where someone was like, or looking up like how to do better as a DM. I don't know how to word that correctly.
Passive checks don't really fix this particular issue at all.
What do you mean?
I mean, they're unrelated.
Well, this is more about convincing. Well, okay, so what I mean by this is, like, there's a point with like, or it begs the question a lot of like, when should you do checks? How often should you do skill checks and stuff like that?
No, that's not particularly the question though.
What do you mean? So I guess I should have said sort of the part of thesis. I feel like a part of it too.
I mean, it's not that that's a wrong question. It's just that's a different one to this. It's like a different
I thought you guys
discussion.
talking about different field characters and such, as well as like feeling you're in control, like your characters actually matter, kind of thing. Or
Specifically,
stats actually matter, I should say.
specifically, I believe the discussion was
About
it was it was about dice to start. It was about 3d6 versus d20. Not particularly versus them, but about the ways they interact with the system, and about the ways characters have to feel that they are competent within the system.
Like
As-
the dice itself or the characters? Or in general?
I mean, they're both
So-
related.
Okay, so at first I didn't know what the fuck Joseph was on about, but now I get what the hell he's saying. To clarify a wee bit, so passive checks are cool. I love passive. My system is just going to be mostly passives, but there will come a time when we need to roll the dice.
Yeah.
And it's very far and few in between when someone rolls a skill check as such, especially with some of the more niche skills,
Mhm.
right? Like, when was the last time you rolled athletics? Am I right? It's a habit.
Okay, wait, hold on. It depends on which system you're asking about.
Well, we've only been talking about the two thus far, so
Very
So-
fucking often, then.
what athletics? Well, I suppose for grapples, but that's neither here nor there. You don't really roll it much outside of that.
No. I mean for no combat, like for no grapples or shoves or whatever athletics is used for in combat. No, I still use it hella.
Athletics? What'd you do?
I play Pathfinder. It's not a shitty system.
No, I'm not talking about Pathfinder. Talking
Well, I
about
don't
Triple B
believe
and
so.
5B, because that was the last thing we were talking about. So pay attention, Joseph. We haven't gotten on
God.
Pathfinder quite yet.
Oh god, I'll explain 5e then. You use it for literally everything except for doing fucking flips and shit.
No,
Because
listen.
there's no fucking differentiation between the skills beyond that.
Alright, fine. Acrobatics, and when was the last time we rolled acrobatics in 5e?
Literally never, because it's not physically
Exactly, that's my
useful.
point. My point is that most of the skills. Listen,
anytime
athletics is
someone
a
brings
bad
up
example.
acrobatics in five-
Shut the fuck up. Stop. Shut up.
You did bring up
Athletics
the
is-
worst actual example possible.
Athletics is a bad example, but literally every other skill is a good example.
Literally,
My point-
literally any other one but that.
My point being, if I can get to my goddamn point, Joseph, is that you roll them so far and few in between, right? And when you do roll them, it's likely because it matters a lot to the narrative, because the DM's like, I genuinely don't know, and what you're doing probably has high stakes, so let's roll-
Hopefully, right?
Hopefully. Otherwise, it's just going to stop the pacing of the game, which is also equally as bad.
Yeah.
So when you roll the die, it's hold on. When you roll the die, and to fail because you like it. Not that I'm contesting the D20, I'm just expressing my feelings about it at this point. It's too often that I fail a check for a skill that I'm good at, that I'm proficient at. It's too often that I fail because I just rolled the wrong number. And it feels like, well, fuck, that was like the one time in like 3 sessions that I'm gonna roll history on rocks. When am I gonna ever do that again?
Okay, wait. I need to interrupt because my point is not living yet. I was gonna bring this up like half a fucking hour ago. And I just forgot because we started talking about 20 different things as these recordings typically go, Lance, as you'll know.
What?
But you said a while ago you feel like Triple D gives good ways to mitigate around the fact of the randomness of, let's say specifically the D20, but just the randomness in general.
I didn't say that, but
I thought you did. Not
You
not,
did.
to be, not to be contentious, but I you said something
No,
about it.
no. I'll die on it.
Well,
He did.
okay, so part of what I was
We
trying
were-
to say
we were-
about that.
Oh, okay, you can correct yourself. I just want to be sure. I just want to say though, you did in fact
okay,
do that.
I may have, but okay. So part of what I was gonna get into was more of like, I guess to summarize it a bit more was, because I didn't want to be like, but the real issue is, but because that's not what I mean. Because like I feel like every little part of things interacts with each other. So in this case, what I was thinking about passive checks is part. I just didn't want to use triple D as an total example because it's still the way it is.
Right.
But something that's why I was kind of going into the Reddit post that I saw of just like, I know what you said, Water, of like having higher stakes and stuff like that. I get it now what you're trying to say. Like it's even with like when you do have to roll, there is that bit of randomness. There is that what I always think of as like room for error, so to speak. Granted, I know it can be big and at times it's a little bit weird. But mostly I was just saying like I looked at this guy's post and he's like, you should only, or part of his advice was when you active checks should, like, you can make active checks primarily if there's some sort of consequence in between, like that sort of thing.
The
like
issue isn't about that. It's
Hold on, let him finish. Hold on, let him finish.
And so that's why I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense to me, because I'm like, why that lets certain like abilities shine out more. Of just like, of course, if you're gonna make a research in the library about rocks, you're not gonna make him roll. Like if it's just about rocks, like it's just like it's easy enough to understand. Like if you break it down and just like, okay, you just research about rocks, like he'll find that out pretty easily.
Why does the stone cutting feat give me advantage on the checks?
Stone cutting feat. Wait, is that
When you're a dwarf, you get fucked, Lance. I caught you.
Okay. So in that case, though,
Even in real life,
So-
if you research fucking rocks, I'm making you make a check for it. What the fuck do you mean, man? I don't
Right.
know.
well,
Do
in
you,
that
know,
case,
do you know shit about the detritus of the crust of the earth?
okay. So part of what I would say about that is, if it's like the information you're looking for is one particularly hidden and it needs like in-depth research that like it can't, like even with time it might not be found, like
Okay.
you would really need to put it together. Or two, I don't know, you're in a time machine, the library's on fire. I don't know, like it's because if you don't do it now it's gonna burn up. That kind of thing. That's sort of what I was going with, of just like, even with a randomized system, that's what can be done. Granted, yes, I do understand now that like with those sorts of things, with like the D20 and like first 3d6, where it's a bit more nuanced, even with active checks, it still adds that sense of randomness, and some people don't like that. That's completely understandable. I can get behind it. I guess part of what I was thinking about with that was more just like, even with that, the way you can go about it can be different. Like, only at that point, it's like I don't know. This isn't my advice or anything like that, but my mind would definitely go to like, oh, in that case, the rules are for very, very like contentious points. Like if it's very like you're really not sure, like it's almost a contest. Like that's why that's what I would use the D20 for. At least that's where my mind would go.
Okay, so Water, my point still stands. Get fucked.
What was your point?
like
Well, it's not about making checks and what they're for and when we should make checks for the D20. It's about the fact that when you make a D20 check, it's not about whether the players or not know the chance of it or not, or any of that. It's like when you make a check, you can't generally expect it to succeed.
Well, to Lance's
that's
point.
kind of what I was point. That's
Oh,
because
Yeah,
it's
that was to
Well,
Lance's point.
well,
is that
like,
it's when you're supposed to. The philosophy is that if your DM is doing it right, or if the system demands it, that you're only rolling when that is the case.
when
I just imagine that if you're playing a game, you are doing something relatively challenging. At least, not all the time, but like often enough that you spec your character into it. Hopefully.
Well, that's why he let in with the passive stuff. So that the fact that you spec into that won't be ignored per se, but it also won't be detrimented by the dice rolling.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant to like D20 versus 3D6.
Not necessarily, because it recontextualizes.
Not necessarily, but it's not like it doesn't. It recontextualizes it, but it doesn't have to do with the player's interaction with how they feel about 3D6.
It does. If you recontextualize it, it does directly do, because when players think time to roll a d20, when they roll it only when it's at its most debatable, they'll think, "Oh fuck, this shit's real," and there's a huge, probably a margin of failure here. That's when you recontextualize it as you're supposed to expect that level of potential failure. Then that's when it changes the game feel.
Yeah, can.
So, I see what you're saying, Lance. Well, are you thinking of, in that case, have you been thinking of hard codifying passive, like, checks into the system as like kind of the default way to check if someone succeeds or fails at any particular task?
Well, I did add rules for like passive checks.
Yeah, the rules for them, but is that the default like codified, like, hey, check first if the passive, if not, then roll?
Not hard codified, but that's kind of what I was feeling. I haven't written it down yet, I guess the best way to put it. Perhaps I will at some point. I forgot if I did, because I feel like I did have this like same thought and conversation. And
we've had a similar conversation before, but it's good to have it on recording. So we can go back, call you a bitch if you're ever wrong.
I would say, that's kind of what I would push for more for, if I really had to say, because in the moment it does kind of make sense. Like, I haven't written down yet. Well, like I said, I didn't write it down, but it's like just a part of things.
Right.
I guess in a way I left it, in the way it's written now, I left it a little bit vague. Like, I forgot where I said it. I think I may have actually taken it off recently, but it's sort of based on the GM how they want to go about it. But if I did have to sort of say a certain version, that might be it. Yeah. So partially, but
yeah, I know that people like Edwin, right? Be it when he's DMing or when he's playing, he loves the randomness. He loves the what if it goes terribly wrong? What if it goes terribly right? Kind of thing. So there is a demographic for even if a DM was like, fuck that passive shit, let's roll the dice. There's a demographic for that. It's not to be ignored per se, because it does add a level of chaotic fun that if that was the expectation from the start, then people would lean into, because you know it can be fun if you have a creative DM who loves the highest stakes. Like, hey, you can either die in a huge explosion or you somehow manage to grapple the dragon with your teeth.
There is the alternative though. I plan for the D20 and I expect things to fail. Or rather, I expect things to fail because a vaguely 50% chance to me, I don't like to rely on a coin flip. I don't.
So
it's very hard to expect things to succeed, which isn't exactly just related to a D20. It's more like the math in general.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very easy to do things and to have fun doing those things but it's completely different than when you can possibly expect things to succeed somewhat regularly, even not close to a 50%, because close to a 50% is still easy enough to get you killed in most situations. Which isn't, again, not because of the D20, it's just like a math thing in general, I guess,
Right.
to some RPGs. But it's still something to keep of note. Part of the way I keep alive, and not keep alive, and specifically Orpheus in L5R's case, is because you can or you can't expect yourself to survive specific situations. Well, not just survive, succeed in specific situations.
Typically survive.
And there's typically survive,
Go
and
ahead,
survive can be stretched. Survive can be stretched to a number of definitions, but just to be more loosely, succeed.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're out here playing Call of Cthulhu. We're solving a mystery.
Exactly.
My ass.
We're
We're
solving a mystery.
killing things. We're killing them.
Listen, there might be one person who plays a non-murderous RPG 100 years from now, maybe technically.
Someone out there is playing the My Little
Someone.
Pony game, and I envy
That'd be
them.
hot. I was like, wait, no, that'll make me horny.
That is until you start getting into like, what's it called? Equestria or whatever? Fallout Equestria? Or what's it
Yeah,
called?
exactly. Let's do that.
Follow
Dude.
the clip.
On a side note, it's like a Fallout themed My Little Pony thing. My friend told me about it, or it was.
Be gruesome, be gritty.
Oh no, it's dark. Like apparently it goes hard. Like
Can you explode the limbs off the ponies like that? Like Fallout?
oh, I don't know how the game plays. There is actually a tabletop game though that I learned, which is wild. But given the themes of the story and such, and what from what my friend told me occurs, yeah, no, it's a lot darker than I thought it was gonna be from My Little Pony side thing. So I don't know about how the game might go, but I assume it might go hard.
I started watching Critical Role play the My Little Pony one.
Wait,
and-
they have a My Little Pony tabletop? There's an actual My Little Pony tabletop?
Yes, there's a actual My Little Pony tabletop.
Oh shit!
And
That's
they did Critical Role did a one shot of it. Critical Role for the listening audience is a better podcast. If you like office humor, that's right. Fuck you,
Oh wow! No.
Dry ass office humor by the
Oh my
fucking
God.
water cooler. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's the shit you would say in your office block to your friends.
Wait, I'm back. I'm back. Fuck water. Water's wrong. Joe, don't listen to that guy. All right. Critical Role is a D&D podcast that you listen to if the first
If you want to go to sleep,
let's see, two and a half episodes, the first 6 to 8 to 10 hours are completely uninteresting. There's no way to actually get in touch with the people playing the characters, and it fucking sucks. So if you want to spend
Well, there goes.
if you want to spend about 3 to 5 movies worth of time sitting in a fucking theater listening to something that'll only get good after the 5th fucking movie, watch Critical Role. It'll be great. It'll be really fucking good after the 5th movie.
Well, there you go. There goes.
I'm sure it gets good 100 hours in.
Yeah, no. Lance, objectively what I said is true, though. After, like,
I'm
several
not saying
hours
anything about that.
Alright, Lance on a thing, but after most
I'm not
people,
trying to.
including my two closest friends who listen to Seth counts now. We'll count 3. My 3 people listen to Critical Role. 2 of them being very close. It gets good only like 10 hours in. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. Okay.
You have
Hold
to,
on,
you
hold
have
on,
to
Lance.
put
You're the lead
fucking-
dev. You can't have controversial opinions.
You have to
I'm
put,
in the room. I'm already.
you gotta put hours of your hours into
I'm
it.
in the room, so it's kind of like I don't know.
You gotta put hours of your life into
Oh,
it, you know?
I was
That's
I respect it. I used to watch it like first season when first
We're
season
not talking about Critical Role. We're not, no. We're
Yeah.
fucking off the Triple D.
Yeah, Lance.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
Lance, did you watch-
It's long
Lance,
though.
did you watch the first 10 hours, huh? Huh?
Triple D. Triple D. Triple D. What a game. What a game, Murray. I hope.
God,
You're right, it's not Critical Role, it's awesome.
I like it.
Critical D.
I
Fuck.
hate it.
Triple roll.
Triple-
Fuck.
Oh no.
Okay, fine. Critical Role's okay. Matt Mercer sucks dick. I want him to kill himself.
That's worse.
Like I said, I'm in the room, so I don't know. It's not gonna, I don't know.
Lance, don't worry,
Lance.
we're cutting that 100% or else our podcast will get fucking canceled.
Yeah,
No
Although
one,
we like
no one
getting
will hear about me
canceled.
wanting Matt Mercer to kill himself.
I'm gonna censor the word
Our
kill, so
podcast
it sounds
will
like
exist.
so people will guess it's something even worse.
I'll just say that might make it worse.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Lance, it literally couldn't be worse than talking shit about Matt Mercer, okay? Don't worry.
Well, no, what Water was gonna do was gonna. You know what? Let's move on.
So-
The
Whatever.
hard ER could be better. And also, a train's about to come here, so I'll just go mute for a few seconds.
Okay, you do that.
If I mute fast enough. Oh, God.
Lance,
So, how's it going?
it's been a year since the last podcast. Have you listened to it?
Full disclosure, I'm not, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Listening audience, this is like a level of treatment you can get from Triple D.
Wow. Okay. Hold on.
This is what respect looks like in Triple D.
I haven't been able to.
Were we that boring in the podcast?
No,
Were we
I
that
just
dull?
haven't. I just was not able to watch it.
Listen, audience, if you buy a $60 Triple D copy when it launches, Lance won't fucking care about you.
Know that we're not getting any of the fucking money. So don't think you're supporting us
God.
to buy a copy of the book, because he's not going to let us in all those funds.
Wrong. When Triple D becomes rich and famous, Lance is gonna buy me In-N-Out.
Is that true, Lance?
Huh?
Are you going to buy Joseph In-N-Out if Triple D becomes big and famous?
I don't know.
Lance, I want my double-double.
I want my 4x4.
For animal
Lance,
style.
Lance, me and Water will take an 8x8 animal style.
Oh wait, that's coverage. Whoops.
So, Lance.
Yep.
It's been a year since the last podcast, and
Okay.
despite the fact that you haven't listened to it, a lot has changed since a year, right?
Uh huh.
What do you think? Now, what do you think of Triple D nowadays? Did you say it's getting close to? Would you call it alpha, beta, maybe even a like first edition release on the shelves? What would you call it?
Neither. To be honest.
Were we recording the entire time we were talking, Water?
Yeah.
Alright, good.
It is in a place. I want to say there's a lot of work to be done still. I want to say with like getting things together. Like so far, the documents been, or what I have on the documents are there's a lot. There is a lot, and truthfully, I don't want to look at Triple D as a product, so to speak. Granted, it would be really cool to release, and perhaps one day I'll say. But it's, I mean, right now it's getting in a good place. At least in a point where I could, play a game, so to speak. Like there's enough to work with. There's lots to work with here. I'm still in the later stages, actually, of well, later stages actually just started. I guess in a way, it's not quite an alpha or any of like the higher stages yet. It's still very much, I guess, a lot of the groundwork is getting built right now. But it's playable. I guess the best way to put it's playable, relatively playable. Like the idea is there. Like right now, I guess the best way to put it is when we Triple D's gone through a lot of changes with like the way the game is, and right now, like Triple D at the moment, from recent thinking, I don't view it as a system as itself right now, even though, or like as a full game system, so to speak. Right now, I've reworded before as like an engine, where it's just like a thing you put into a setting, and then that's how it will work, and then maybe adjust a few things, connect a few cables, so to speak. You know what I mean? Connect a few wires from the world into the system, so to speak, just to make it fit better. But in a way, it's more just that. It's more just like this engine that people can use, and my personal idea of just like, or my personal like just formation, so to speak. I will say it is a beast. I did not think it was going to grow into this 150 page document. That's like just RPG stuff in general. But yeah, so like for example, right now, like what we talked about before, Water, with like honing in on Triple D a bit more and picking out a setting. Because with Triple D, we've played a lot of different settings, like modern day, cyberpunk, fantasy settings, zombies, zombie apocalypse settings, and I came to love a lot of them, like almost all of them, and it's been fun running different games in them. The longest running one that I've had so far was the cyberpunk one, but with like another group, but that one doesn't have, or there's a lot of rules that I wanted to implement with it that I never really got to, just because I was doing schoolwork / work in the system / doing these little side features for it, blah blah blah. But right now I'm just trying to like, I guess if I really say, finishing up any referential material that I will want to reference if I needed to, and then moving into a more an actual setting, so to speak. Turning one of those settings into like a legitimate sort of game. So the way like D&D is full fantasy, they have their own Dungeons and Dragons world, or Pathfinder is like has their own world. Sort of that's what I want to do with that. So like right now, the one I do have in mind right now is I do love guns. I like like action movies like that. I think Water might be muted as well as Joseph, but when he gets back, I will give it there.
Okay.
Oh, hey, let's go. I was just about to entertain the. Both your reviews.
So after I asked you that question, I was like, sweet, he's gonna go on a tangent. Then I want to go piss, so I didn't listen to any of that.
Oh my god. How much you? I did kind of, and I was like, I don't know if you were still there because I heard voices. So I'll keep going in case like you're still listening. But what was the last thing you heard?
That's not important. That was more for the listening audience because we already talked about this before in our own time.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Lance.
Yeah.
Lance.
What?
What Water meant to say was, you're a bitch ass pussy. Fuck you.
Okay.
Lance, what do you think about that? No, listen.
That's not shit.
Remarks.
That's not cash money.
That's not cash money. No.
Can we get one writing? That's not cash money.
I know.
Lance, look at the press when you say that. So,
I'm looking at my fan.
Lance, listen
Yes.
to me. Triple D.
Triple D.
I want to ask you a hypothetical, right? Not an elaborate one of any sort, like I usually do. It's so let's say a group of people, just random people, say we're gonna play Triple D.
Okay.
Rules is written, no added
Okay.
content, and we're gonna try and play with as much of it as possible.
Okay.
Right? So I don't know. Just given how it works thus far, it's a modern day setting.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess you weren't there for that one, but I did kind of I kind of did go into like what Triple D is becoming from like an engine to like what to an actual setting system, so to speak. The way like D&D has like Dungeons and Dragons World and Pathfinder's all that kind of
Right.
stuff, but
Right, but it hasn't reached that point yet, has it?
no, but I'm slowly moving into it. I'll say.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
so hence why I bring the question.
Oh, okay.
So because right now, it best works for a modern setting because there's a lot of modern things already implemented and rationalized and such and such and so on.
Yes.
Right. So a group of people decide to sit down, play Triple D. Only rules is written, right? Yes, I want cake. Gal offered me cake.
Oh, nice.
And we got Thresh Etches, no less. El Super's on DoorDash now. It's pretty cool. Sponsored by DoorDash. Anywho. If a group of people were to play Triple D, rules is written, what kind of emergent narratives do you think would come about? Right? What kind of stories is Triple D best suited for?
Oh, okay. So I kind of went over when we were all muted, but for me, we've played a million different types of games using Triple D. We played modern games, we played fantasy, we played.
I'm not necessarily talking about settings per se.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
narratives, emergent narratives.
So in that way, though, so like when we were talking about themes, though, we've had like cyberpunk games and even sci-fi games. But a commonality that I've come to love about them, and this is me even playing like D&D and stuff back, growing with it, was I really liked the action. The actions, like the action sort of thing. And part of me loved like the action movies, action video games, shooters, FPSs, their TPSs, what have you. And I really wanted a game that allowed me to basically do that. I really like fascinated by like the military and like the more mercenary action, like that, those kinds of like action movie shenanigans that you can get up to. Well, I don't know how much that is sort of translated here. I will say what I do have so far, what you can sort of expect from it in this current iteration, is more like action, combat heavy scenarios where sort of like, if you've watched the anime like Black Lagoon, which is one of my bigger inspirations for this, very much kind of what you might expect of just like a group of like mercenary guys who are kitted out with like weapons, gadgets, and all kinds of stuff, having to fight threats or do these simple jobs that become crazy or have crazy circumstances surrounding it, in which they have to fight their way out, figure out their way out, or something, a mix of all. So yeah, if that sort of answers the question.
Do you think Triple D as it stands is close to achieving that sort of narrative? If not completing it already?
I want to say yes. Right now, most of the work that I've been doing is a bit more piecemeal, very not very much on the system per se, but more just on the I guess they're all part of it. Because recently, what I've been doing is I've been outfitting the equipment list a bit more, and adding more items to it that are more suited, and thinking more modern. I'm thinking like, okay, what would these mercenary guys like? What's something that they would kind of go up against, or what they would use, so to speak? And there's like things like handcuffs, zip ties, bayonets, like weapon accessories, or like NVGs, or like signal jammer, or like scuba gear if you guys want to go like underwater, that kind of thing. Where I picture players or characters would be like underwater, like combat, or like if you're familiar with the frogmen, this military unit, who are very skilled at underwater missions, very much like what I thought. And then pretty much I've just been going at it from that point of view, as well as weight, because I've recently did some revamps on the weight system, how weight and inventory system, how characters hold their stuff. So I had stuff like utility belts, and they're called utility vests, but if you know like the military load bearing gear, basically the harnesses that they wear that have all the pouches and stuff like that, pretty much the exact same thing is what I pictured. And there's like computer hacking and like ideas about cover as well as vehicles. So I guess it's getting there. The picture is getting more clear in my head, which has been helping me a lot with just making that like giving Triple D a face, so to speak, because that was kind of an issue. So yeah, it's getting there. I'll say.
Okay.
I think the combat parts of Triple D are hard to use to the point where they don't stand out more than just doing other things with the rules as is. Like, it doesn't lend itself particularly more to doing action-y movie things than doing other things that are just a check.
Care to give an example?
There's not a particular difference between me doing combat action movie things and doing something with a rather boring skill. The combat itself doesn't particularly mesh together or do anything that feels like that.
I'm still not quite hearing an example.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could
It's
paint a picture with your words. Set the scene for us.
The combat doesn't particularly stand out beyond just making a normal check with the skills, as is. Like there's not a particular difference. There's not a particular difference between trying to go for what the game is trying to accomplish than trying to go for what the game isn't trying to accomplish.
I think I kind of understand what you're saying in that last one, but
yeah, slowly gathering it. Yeah.
So I guess in that way, I get what you're saying. Like, sometimes it doesn't quite feel like you're being an action movie star, that kind of thing. And that's something
it's about the game mechanics itself. They don't blend together to lend towards that.
They don't blend together. So all the different mechanics.
Like none of the mechanics feel like that.
So you're saying none of the mechanics are... So you're saying the goal wasn't achieved to feel like an action hero?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
the mechanics don't necessarily emerge into that property, you say.
Yeah. I'm trying to like look at this thing. There's like mountain lions out here, so occasionally I like gotta stop when I'm doing, make sure I'm not about to fucking die.
Yeah, at any given time, Joseph could die.
literally, Lance. I don't think I texted us the other group. I was in the tent while a fully grown mountain lion was out.
Oh, jeez.
Like a cougar.
Yeah.
So if Joseph manages to piss you off today, just know that's his dying breath.
and me and my brother agree. Me and my brother, who's like super, he's the animal guy. We agree. I could probably break a wolf's neck. I don't think I could break a cougar's neck. They're really fucking strong. Wolves are a little flimsy. I don't want to fight a cougar. Yeah, sorry, I forgot what I was saying. I just saw a glint in the bushes, and it's either a big cat or a cougar, and you can never know.
But to the point of like the way the mechanics blend, and I can kind of see it, I guess. I try to do my best because my knowledge is relatively limited. I'll fully admit that. It's mostly on like 5th edition and like D&D and Pathfinder. And while my inspirations were like more action movie stuff like that, I did go a little bit more into like sort of more military-esque roles with the translation of using like D&D 5th edition as well as Pathfinder, of just like they're not gonna quite mesh the way some people might view it, and I tried to do my best to translate that. It's the most. That's what I know primarily. And if I've tried to do that previously before, and with like using 5th edition stuff like that, making a campaign like this, or like making a campaign that's more modern day and stuff like that, but it didn't quite mesh. Well, it worked, I'll say, relatively. I was very inexperienced as a DM during that time period, but it didn't quite work out. And it, looking at things, people would say, "Oh, just like use like other systems, play anything other than D&D." And at the time, I was like, "Yeah, I can," but I'm like, I don't know anything else, and I don't know any other books. So I and my friends at the time also did play, like they only knew 5th edition because of me, and I was like, oh, okay, I can adjust. Though I know it's not the best system for a lot of things, or it was always like I guess the Pathfinder D&D kind of scenario there, which is I guess why as I was moving into it and developing Triple D, some things may not translate as well because it's like you won't totally feel like that. That's all I could really say. It's more of just like an inspiration because I like those action movies. But in a way, it's sort of like translating just like, hey, here's some military stuff into a tabletop game. Like I will admit, there are a lot of games that do it way better. I can't even off the top of my head. I didn't really get to look at too much. And part of the reason too I did end up making Triple D or developing it more was there were not a lot of modern day systems that in general I want to say like there's like a lot there's a few that like I've seen that I didn't get to read too much. The only one I have been able to look more in depthly to is D20 Modern, which is a product of Wizards of the Coast, which was based off of D&D 3.5. That one, very in-depth, very cool, but I didn't want to... It had its own, like, complexities, reading through. So that's why, and knowing 5th edition more, I was like, maybe I wanted to bring it... I just wanted to use what I knew and bring it to 5th edition, first as a homebrew, and more just, like, tweaking the system to what it is now. So I know some things aren't going to mesh, aren't going to stay there, but I try, I guess, in a way, just making a modern day system. I guess the best way to put it. I tried.
I remember we had a discussion similar to this after watching the movie Bullet Train.
Yeah. Mm.
No spoilers, because Gail's in the area.
Right.
But also for the listening audience's sake, I guess I should also say. After that, we were like, man, this is just a session of everything that we fucking do. It's just Triple D movie. It's a horror world. Again, I don't want to say anything, but still, it was action movie generally speaking. And
yeah.
I remember a few days after we saw that, you and I had a discussion about being able to just use random things around your setting to like aid you in combat, you know?
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Like the Jackie Chan.
Because when I think of... I don't often watch action movies. I like them, but I just don't watch them as often as other things.
Right.
But when thinking about what would I want to do in an action movie, and then thinking, okay, can I do it in Triple D, right? That's like one of the bigger questions that we should ask ourselves. Can I do this awesome scene? Because even, like, there's a lot of things in, like, 5e that fails to hold up to, hey, I could have done this in a movie, but because we're playing 5e, good luck jumping on head-to-head like Legolas and then shooting, like, 3 arrows or whatever the fuck. You know? Like, that stuff's awesome, but you just can't do that.
Yeah. Right.
But so I think to myself when looking at Triple D, and I think, can I do these sweet action movie things? And then we talked about it. We talked about, hey, picking up items, because a lot of the times they will pick up a random item and then use it in combat, like pick up a tray and toss it at someone's head, or pick up a book and use it to block like a knife or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or hit someone, block someone on the head. So we came up with this cool rule that I really want to test out next time we play Triple D.
Oh, yeah.
Jackie Chan feet. I don't think that's what it's called.
I remember. I think it's called slapstick. I believe that's because I remember we were trying to look up what it was called, what the actual feat was called, or his fighting style was called, and we got random answers of like, oh, it's like wushu, or like he studied like karate, or all kinds of different martial arts, which was helpful, which was really cool to know.
That's cap. The answer is it changes totally based on fucking movie.
Yeah, and right,
And so calling it slapstick just worked better anyway. It's
yeah,
funny.
and yeah, there was I think it was like a Korra question that asked, and some guy said his thing is slapstick. I don't know if that's totally quoted, but I was like, me and Water, I was like, yeah, no, that sounds about cool. And me and Water were like, yep, that's what we're gonna call it. Name pending for sure, but I like the name.
And so, although it hasn't been tested yet, I have confidence that, at the very least, if one does not think that anything else action movie related has been included, that one at least is there.
Yeah.
That one, because I don't know, we don't often. I guess we do experiment with action-y things, right? But we more so experimented that in the earlier stages of Triple D. Most of our sessions are more intrigue-based, and whenever there is a combat scenario, we're testing out like specific weapons rather than wacky scenarios to do with weapons. You know, we're just kind of.
I think the system itself doesn't lend itself to combat, but that's like an entire thing.
I don't know, because when we did the Chris Hansen one shot, okay.
Well, what I mean is that the combat isn't great.
Hold on, I just said the Chris Hansen thing. Let me contextualize that real quick.
Oh my god!
Sure, we fought Chris Hansen.
They fought Chris Hansen, and it's not because they're pedophiles. It's not because
completely unrelated.
Completely unrelated.
Completely unrelated. There wasn't even one pedophile there. Oddly
not
enough,
a single
Chris Hansen
pedophile
was
was
just kinda
there.
Goes to a whole like.
But
other...
anyways, we
Not
fought
even a
Chris
child was
Hansen,
there.
and that was
Kids
fine.
free.
But the system doesn't particularly lend itself to combat, but that's like an entire conversation to have.
I don't, because it was fine the last time we played. I don't remember having too much issues. What do you?
I mean, the combat isn't like great.
That's not an elaborate answer, my friend.
The combat isn't particularly more outstanding than any other part of the system that's non-combat.
So, I'm trying to think of, because I wish we would jump out of buildings more, you know. But
despite a lot of the feats, or most of the feats being combat related, the combat is heavily lackluster.
I mean, I don't know what much to say. I
there's
guess
not much to say. That wasn't much of commentary. That was just its ass, and then there's nothing to do. That's not an elaborated thought, my friend. You need to give examples.
Are we having that entire conversation now?
Well, I mean, we're kind of leading in that direction. I just want to ask, right? Could you give an example of something that you would have liked to be able to do in Triple D, but you don't feel confident that it would work? Like something from an action movie that's like, I want to do that.
Attack more than once.
You can. What do you mean?
The fuck you can.
I mean,
it's 3 actions.
There is, yeah. You can.
Granted, in Joseph's defense, the second 2 actions are heavily debuffs.
Oh,
they're not debuffed. They have no benefit whatsoever.
Well, they are. They are.
They have literally nothing whatsoever.
Wait, hold on. Did Lance?
I guess I should say I did add stuff to that. Some behest, but yeah, no. I did see a little bit. I was like, yeah, no, I did want to add. I've been trying to fit an extra attack system a bit more in there, so that's kind of what I did for some of it. Just to add that, because I was thinking too recently, because I is it when that happened? No. I looked back because I tape removed it at first. Because previously, extra attack used to be like you guys know, used to be like a what do you call it? A single feat that you could pick up as long as you had a plus in any combat skill.
Yeah, I'm talking about the current 3-action system.
He's contextualizing it for the audience
Yeah.
as well.
So
Oh.
So in that case, then, with the extra attack, I was like, okay, what can I do with it? Because I didn't want to. In my mind, it made a lot of sense because like you guys would know better. But at the same time, I was like, I didn't want to just keep it so like someone would just pick it up and know how to instantly fire like 2 shots out of a gun because they know how to swing their sword twice really good. You know what I mean? That was just more my thinking of just like slightly bit of balance, slightly a bit of like logical thing, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know how to explain it. So what I'm doing is I gave each one their own, each combat skill their own, because there you go. Like, so if you know how to, that's pretty much it. I guess I was kind of debating in my head about it, but I guess most recently thinking about it, I had gone out to shoot like some weeks ago, and I'm trying to think if that was the case. Oh no! I had looked up.
In real life, you went to go
In
shoot?
real life.
Oh yeah, you did. I remember.
Yeah. It was some weeks ago, and me and a friend and I were just playing around, and I look at the situation and think like, oh wait, how easy would it have been to like fire a shot with a gun and then keep your same target and shoot just as well? And I came to the conclusions after looking at footage from other people doing that, because I looked up like how hard is it to do a follow-up shot like accurately, so to speak, and it's the results were somewhat inconclusive, but basically I thought back, okay, because I went the whole 6 seconds around thing, and I was like, okay, so how hard would it be in 6 seconds to shoot a shot, realign, then shoot again? And I was like, oh, seems pretty not easy, but with the right training, you could do that well. And I thought back with like other things as well, especially since the combat is a bit more, you guys are rolling, so it's like it won't always be perfect the second time. You'll have a better chance than someone who doesn't know how to do that for sure. But this is all just to say, yes, there are now extra attack feats for each of the combat skills.
Wait. Hold on, you lost me there. So
I just kind of went down with it. Sorry.
There are feats now for extra attack.
Yes.
For now.
Yes.
Okay. So
for each of the combats.
Okay, so we still have the 3 actions, right?
Yes. Very, very.
Okay, so I'm looking at the feats list now. I'm trying to find.
If I'm right, it should be.
When I get the chance on a computer, Water, which hopefully will be next
Decades
week,
from now.
probably decades from now. I have, like, you've heard, I have a lot of issues with like Triple D's combat, but I fucking need a computer.
What's the name of the feat?
So on the side here, so for melee it's combo strike. For archery it's speed draw, I believe. Firearms it's shooter. And unarmed already had it, actually. Unarmed was, that was also part of the reason why too, because the only one that got it was unarmed at first, and that was the one that had like you don't get a penalty on the second attack.
Okay.
Part of the reason why I kept it that way, because my first thought with unarmed was I just want to like, that would be the one that's more like rapid fire attacks. But I thought it's like a combat set, so I just gave it to everybody and such.
Okay.
And unarmed has a more utility with it too that you could perform, and they all have their own benefits, so to speak.
And I assume because it doesn't say otherwise that you can only take this once.
Yes, you can only take one.
Okay, so if you're with the feat, the first 2 attacks will not be penalized, whereas the third attack will not be able to gain the advantages of its bonus.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Why not just do the normal attack penalty thing?
What?
Why not just have an attack penalty thing?
There is a multi-attack penalty.
Well, the multi-attack penalty in this is it just removes the.
It's just that you don't get to use any of your any of your bonuses.
Yes.
which is rather detrimental to the attack.
And it's also weird. And it's also weird because there's also something that adds an additional attack bonus separately, which isn't actually part of your base attack, so it does add.
Yes.
Which still at the same time scales the same as defense, so it doesn't actually matter.
I don't know. What do you? What?
Unless defense caps less than 10.
I think it does now, right?
Oh,
wait, no, defense
less than
10. What was the cap for defense?
Armor. Last I checked, generally caps at 13 if you're trying your hardest to flex into it.
I remember it was nerfed
Yes.
recently.
You can get heavy armor and light armor to get your AC up to plus 13.
So I did actually adjust that math a little bit. I don't know how much you remember from that before, or how long ago that was. But so with armor, I believe I used the baseline of 10 as the most, without any specific. Okay, what was it? So your baseline is 10, or not 10. Sorry.
So the max is
If-
plus 10.
Yes. So if you have your without any upgrades, just base.
But the max is plus 10.
The max is
Generally.
plus 10?
If
So
you're,
the highest
if you're
possible
respect-
number
if-
that you can have in defense is 10.
Without any upgrades, yes. If
No,
you
Wait,
want,
hold on. Even with
with
upgrades.
upgrades, with upgrades, 13.
Not with upgrades, just with a high defense skill stat, whatever
Oh,
it is,
defense skill.
acrobatics.
You mean reflex?
It's oh yeah, reflex caps for defense at 5 now, right? Or did you?
Yeah. So 5. So
That was recently
Yeah.
changed because of the Chris Hansen session.
yeah. So I remember from that game we did I did make some slight adjustments to it. So basically with this one is the recent change that I can think of to my head with this as I'm looking at it is so light armor stays relatively low, but you can add as high as your reflex goes. There's no caps. Medium armor there is a cap of 2. Heavy armor there's a cap of 1. But if I really had to put the numbers out there, nothing goes above 7. That is until you start throwing on shields. Then that's when you start adding that's when it can go to a max of 10 per se if you have the biggest shield.
And for the listeners, benefit. What is like the average that you would say from all the skills and feats and whatnot? What do you think people are rolling on average to hit someone?
What on
Two
skills
hits.
max at 5 or 6?
Skills cap at 5, but you could still get like their feats to give +2s and such.
Yeah, but you can only get the plus 2 feet. You can only get a plus 2 feet every 5 levels. Can you get the plus 2 feet to start at level 0, Lance?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
You can pick it up as long as you fit the requirement.
Yeah, the system for the listeners, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but where before skills, like by advancing a skill, you would unlock feats from that.
Mhm.
Nowadays, they're kind of separate, where you advance skills,
So
and the advantage is the skill in and of itself. But when you level up, you get a point to either get a skill or get a feat.
the problem with calculating to hit in Triple D is that you have to spec into it, or you don't have to spec into it.
Yeah, that is something that
Well,
there's a huge-
Like you
range.
either have to choose to spec into it to have a max defense, or you choose not to, and you just take heavy armor. And unlike 5th edition or Pathfinder or something, there's not particularly that's not like a trade-off to make. That's just free skill points.
What was the last one?
Because-
What was the last thing you said?
If you
Or
choose
it's not really
not-
what was not really what?
if you choose to not spec into defense and you just take heavy armor and the bare minimum to have the heavy armor, you essentially have more skill points than someone who specs into armor, like light armor, with reflex.
That comes more to the money. In that case, yeah, no, that's sort of
What's the highest that someone can get
Go.
to hit? What's the highest like hit
Oh, it's a
modifier?
hits.
Yeah.
So if you're just doing pure stats, it's going to be +5, and then that's your cap skill or your skill cap. And then if you get to the highest point of
Feats.
feats, it should be +10, +10 as well.
So +10. All right. So the ranges will always be.
Oh, I
Range
just
multiplier.
realized something. I miscalculated something. Yeah, no, I miscalculated. Don't worry, it shouldn't be an issue, but if that's the case, then that actually helps if my calculations are right. Or that makes the math a little bit more easier. If I had to say. I should say it out loud, but
For
no,
for the listening audience, I should point out that Triple D, because when you play as like a 5e character or just most other traditional tabletops and such, you get a class, and that class will by default have already spec'd into combat, right? You would choose to spec into those other more roleplay things as your option, but you're only gonna default get combat things to be decent at to start out with. But in Triple D, you have a lot more agency in that you can choose to ignore combat skills. A lot of other skills do add to combat, right? But, you know, only the combat ones are going to be to hit something.
yeah,
so-
pretty much. Yeah.
The intention isn't that you ignore the combat skills, though.
That point's contentious, because I don't know, right? Because it's like,
I mean, is it? Len said the system is combat based.
sure, but he also said that he it's a case of wanting our cake and eating it too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I won't lie. That was something that I've also been contending with a bit. And I do have bias. I do have a bit of a bias. Well, I won't lie. Because my primary knowledge
As of
is,
now, if you ignore the combat skills, you objectively have less to work with. Just like content
sure.
wise.
So in that case, though, that was, like I said, that's a bit of my bias because I primarily used combat system. I was more of a martial player, so that's all there's a lot. I guess the most I could really say is, you will see a lot more combat-based things than none. And like we talked about too before, yeah, it was a more combat-focused system, so I guess that kind of goes hand in hand, I suppose. But yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because the system can be used to play non-combat things in the same way that, you know, 5e and other systems can be. There's a lot of mechanics that aren't invasive as it is. You know, you can, because I remember in Edwin's game, Edwin, our good friend Edwin, the Hispanic, for listening audiences who don't know, he's Hispanic, so that makes him automatically
Cool.
cool. Yeah, that's the word.
Not the word I was thinking of.
So he runs a sci-fi game, and it's not combat centric, probably at all. There is combat, right?
There-
Not to say that it's ignored at all.
Mhm.
But it's mostly just an exploration. Just an exploration of what other chaotic things we could see in the universe. It's just heavily focused on us moving around and talking to NPCs and trying to blow things up. Good fun. Good classic fun. The system as it stands has been able to answer a lot of questions when it comes to, hey, what do I do here? What do I do there? We haven't been able to play a lot of that campaign with the most recent iteration, but we have played one session with it most recently. And with the given that the challenges that we face in a non-combat scenario is usually just going to be like a static DC difficulty check, for those who don't know. That's what I mean, difficulty check.
Yeah,
right?
difficult check.
I don't know
Yeah.
why it's difficulty check and not like difficulty.
I'll be honest, I actually did not know what DC meant for like a long time. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
In any case, it's mostly just about the challenges that we face along the way. Like combat needs that complexity because it's kind of life or death. One could argue. Well, we can also argue that those other things also need complexity and that combat can be simplified. There's a lot of debate there, but in a system like this, like Triple D, having a lot of answers to combat things is important, whereas those other things that are kind of the little brothers and sisters of the combat skills aren't as demanding when it comes to what kind of conflicts we're going to be facing, because nobody's going to be like, people don't know enough about like history, for example, unless you're a history buff of sorts, to understand the complexity of dealing with a history-based challenge.
Don't get me started on the history of why people use swords.
Most people, when they think about that, they don't.
I've learned more since then, Water. The answer is still just because swords are cool.
Just because swords are cool. My
No,
point being that
like they don't
right.
think historically it's cool. They think it's classy, it's refined, it's noble. No, swords are cool. That's it.
a lot of combat challenges, the things that players are going to be going up against, are a bit more intuitive to the general populace than some other skills. Like, what kind of challenges does survival face? I don't fucking know.
Electronics or survival, religion, or like fucking, I don't know, any kind of weird, anything non-combat is more esoteric and something that can like alienate someone. But
Yeah.
everyone's at one point or another, they're going to have to engage with an enemy, more than likely, at some point.
Engage with what?
They're going to have to engage with an enemy, something
Oh,
adversarial.
Yeah, adversarial.
At the very least, you can agree, like, all of this other shit could be, there's so many ways to handle it. Like, we were talking about, like, reading checks earlier. Like, the way you could handle reading speed. You can handle it passively, you can handle it with a check, you can handle it with, like, a multi-skill check. But, like, combat, it's like, you're fucking fighting someone. You get it, you know?
You get it. It's a
Everyone
lot
gets
more-
it.
If a DM, even if you're a brand new DM, you'd still be able to intuit, hey, what if they did this instead? Wouldn't that give them an advantage, disadvantage, sort of.
You're like, well, it probably does X amount of damage at least.
Yeah, so
We can understand that. Anything else is more X amount of damage is easy.
especially with the inclusion of damage, that adds just enough depth to make it so you just need to answer more questions, because HP is a pool and people need to know how much do they lose at one time and for what reasons. So that alone just adds, because you get nothing and lose nothing if you succeed or fail a history check. You're not gonna lose history points. What the fuck are history points, There's no depth beyond the narrative.
If you're losing a point for something, it's probably complex and it probably is on your sheet for it. Combat, you almost certainly have HP.
Yeah.
Almost every goddamn time.
So, even with simple games like Uncharted Worlds, for anyone who hasn't played Uncharted Worlds, it's pretty cool. I like it.
Existing is usually a goal. A core
Yeah,
goal,
so-
even.
Even they have like, hey, this XYZ for combat. It's combat. It's combat. So I get it. So, but I don't know. I don't remember how I got to this tangent. When I listen back, I'm gonna be like, fuck, I forgot.
I know. I was listening and I was doing some like quick numbers, but yeah, I forgot how we got here. To be honest, sorry.
I'll just make this point real quick. When it comes to, because you were saying that someone can opt out of combat.
I was
And-
talking about like the importance of combat in Triple D. I
Yeah,
was saying that in Triple D in particular, combat doesn't hold more weight than the other parts of it. But then Lance was going on about like why he in particular has combat and values combat in his system over other things.
So unfortunately, I may have to be leaving pretty soon. I
That's-
gotta
Yeah,
go.
you gotta go pick up some gay guy, right? Like a hooker.
No, my brother. The airport. But I still got like maybe about 5 more minutes. And she has.
Okay. Just really quickly, within less than a minute, summarize my point here. I want to say that I'm kind of, when it comes to Triple D, right? The combat, I don't often engage with the combat. Not that I don't like combat. It's kind of not the kind of characters that I build, because I usually build me, and I'm not a very powerful person. But I do engage in the other things. I love to engage in all of the non-combat things and see where that gets me. And I have been a tad resentful of the fact that there's not like many things to interact with as a member of like the non-combat group. Granted, crafting is slowly developing itself, and that's the part that I truly cared about anyway, so I'll be satisfied sooner or later. But for anyone else who's trying to engage with those other things, yeah, I don't know. They may too be resentful, because it is just roll the dice. Unless your game is going to be lax, and you'll be fine because you just roll the dice and you move on, and everyone has a good laugh. If it's a lax game, but if you're wanting more complexity than that, then yeah, you're it's like I don't know. That's my point. That's my engagement with Triple D thus far. I think the combat, I need to engage with it more. I need to do more combat-centric things. I need to really spec into it to get a full grasp of it. But me experimenting with the non-combat stuff...
The combat as a regular user of it, it's honestly gotten worse, and not less engaging, but something you want to engage with less. At least as a regular participant of it.
Yeah, Joseph loves himself some combat.
It's just, and it's not about the stupid parts about it at all, like me triple attacking with the rocket launcher. So that's funny as fuck. but you know, Water at least knows. I specifically don't like overpowered shit either, because then I don't find it fun either.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool when you shot the 3 rocket launchers and we just went home.
That was hilarious. That was objectively hilarious, because it did so little damage. It did like it did in the 50s of damage, and the people there had 45 HP.
That's amazing.
It was cool as fuck, and it obliterated the scenery.
So I wouldn't complain. I don't know.
It wasn't a one shot though, was it? It was 3 rockets.
That's true, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. It was a 3. You make a compelling argument.
and it was also a majority of them failing a reflex save. A reflex save that also wasn't based on anything I did. It was a set reflex DC.
So, okay, to wrap this up quickly, Lance, are there any major changes that we can expect in the future of Triple D?
Major changes. So right now, like someone previously before, I know you and me had a discussion about like focusing the game a bit, and sort of what I want to do with the engine itself, or with Triple D as an engine itself. So right now I'm working, well, as I'm just like getting the framework document done, and like getting it more fleshed out. What I'm going to be starting to work toward is I'm going to choose a setting that I know, particularly modern. Like I said, I was talking about Black Lagoon earlier before, sort of like and I wanted to hone in more on this particular system, or this particular setting, so to speak. And it's, so, and I guess part of the things too you brought up was backgrounds with it too. So, so character backgrounds that will hopefully help more with like sorting out your equipment and stuff like that in a way. So it's sort of like classes, but it's more just like what starting loadout do you want? I guess that's sort of what I'm going to work for, as well as honing the system more into like the more mercenary, military, modern day stuff setting that I know. Right now, the working title for that is, just to help me focus a bit more on it, and the placeholder name I have for it is called Gun Pulse.
Gun Pulse.
Yes. Not sure what that means yet. Well, I kind of do. But yeah, no, that's really about it. That's I guess more fleshing out, more just studying up on the systems, getting to know more systems as we go, and yeah.
I'm hoping for like a redo of a lot of things. I need to like write things.
Oh boy. I mean, what we can do. I'll see what we can do about it
Well,
as we go.
well, Lance, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you in a year when we do another podcast in Triple D season 6th edition.
Yeah, for sure.
Until then, listening audience, go fuck yourself. Why'd you listen to this? You wasted
Thanks
your
for
time.
coming, I
You
guess.
know how freaking good it
Audience,
is.
thanks for listening. I'm just trying to.
Me and Water are gonna now
I don't want us
jump
to
into the mic
start
for
it.
you.
I don't want you guys to be. It's totally audience when you start.
Tune in next time when we'll talk about my system, my superior system. Oh boy. Hopefully we'll piss each other off more next time.
Oh god.
Hey, you know what? That's wishful thinking. Alright, Lance, you can get the fuck out of here now.
Let's get out of here. I'm trying to
I'm still waiting on a thing, but I can hang out for a bit.
kiss Water on the lips.
Oh. Well, in that case,
Unless you guys, I don't know.
Lance, what do you hate most about women?
Like
God
if you had to choose one thing about women, what do you dislike the
Cousin.
most?
No.
I'll tell you what I hate most about women.
Winning?
I hate women.
Oh, so you said, I was like, oh, winning. Oh, no, okay, never mind.
I'll tell you what I hate most about women. I hate how their rights are infringed. I want them to be respected and treated as equals, but Lance disagrees. That's right.
Hold on here. Hold up. Hold up now.
You heard
Lance?
her first. You heard her. I'm gonna do an
Yeah.
edit that says the.
You know what?
what? Yeah, I
After
hate
Lance
women.
leaves, let's go into the part where Lance thought about bringing races into his game.
That's right.
Oh,
We'll give the
Lance-
secret. We'll give the behind the scenes on Lance. You know.
oh god.
Lance, you said you weren't gonna include black people into your system. Can you elaborate on that?
He did specifically say he would include races, but not black people for some reason, and that's a little weird. Asians, but no blacks, huh?
So, okay.
Something about them being OP.
It was not
Asians, but no blacks, huh?
It was about fantasy races.
Oh, so now we're fictional, eh?
Got it. Marginalize some more. I
That's you.
don't
You know, Lance, I thought we were friends, and now you're telling me that I'm not even real.
Wow.
Just because I'm black, eh?
Oh my god.
Water, I think you exist, even Lance doesn't.
I think you barely exist because you've been genocided.
I do barely exist, thank you.
Just barely exist.
Just barely.
I can't. The numbers are going to drop the moment they find out we're minorities, the listening audience.
Oh my god.
And then they're gonna release
about
Assassin's Creed 8, The Reckoning, and then like my numbers will rise again.
We probably shouldn't tell them that Lance is a minority because Triple D won't sell.
Oh, this is a lot, I think.
It sure would
Yeah,
be a
it's
shame
pretty
if
true.
they found out. Legislation.
All right, cool. That was the podcast.
Alright. Is the recording? Is Craig still recording?
Yeah, it's still recording. What's it
Oh,
tell you?
cool. Oh no, I was wondering. Oh, okay. Very nice.
It has timestamps for when people join the call. It's
Uh,
awesome.
It says it really? Damn, how
Yeah.
does it go?
Oh shit! You know what that means? I'm gonna have to sync the audio with that knowledge. Fuck. God, because you weren't here from the start. Fuck. Oh, damn it, Lance. No. I got it. I'll just sync at the end. I got this. As long as
There you
Lance
go.
doesn't leave before I end this recording. And in 3, 2, 1.
My nigga.